And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another month, another edition of the uThermal 2v2 Circuit, the February edition. Welcome, one and all. I'm of course your host, VIP. With me, I'm joined by these amazing players, by the people in the chat, by my plushies as well. Welcome, one and all, to something a little bit different, to a replay cast here. For those that maybe weren't here last month, for those that are unaware of the event itself, we were working the event, but not casting. At the time, we were not casting. We were, of course, adminning and working behind the scenes, making sure that this tournament ran as smoothly as possible. This event ran a couple of days ago, less than a week ago at this point, and we were, of course, working diligently behind the scenes, and now after the fact we're here to cast. After the fact, we are here to cast, here to bring you the 2v2 as much as we can. Again, shout out to uThermal. He did start the initiative back in January, this big 2v2 circuit, which has been getting a lot of traction, a lot of attention, a lot of eyes on this event. It's been great to see that actually happen. For a very long time, 2v2 was never really taken too seriously in StarCraft 2. There was like maybe a little bit of a stint like during the hybrid pro league when 2v2 was a factor, but it never really was kind of incorporated into the competitive circuit. And it's only last year that started happening. I think it was last year where people like Wardy started hosting 2v2 and 3v3 events, and it was like a one-off sort of thing, but it actually got a lot of attention, got a lot of signups, got a lot of viewership as well. And from then, Wardy started doing it regularly, and uThermal stepped in and started his own circuit as well. I know Wardy's events are monthlies, but they're, again, more sporadic, and there's not as much cohesion that's kind of tying them all together. Here, uThermal's is like there's a proper circuit here. Points are being awarded to high-placing teams and high-placing players, and of course, all leading towards an end-of-year finals as well. So a proper circuit here. Also, this event is funded and organized. It is funded by uThermal's viewer base. His community has been gracious enough to donate and to fund the entirety of the circuit. So yeah, it's really cool to see so much attention and so much not just attention, but so much just so much kind of investment here into this from the community itself. So yeah, it's really cool to see. Really cool to see the community taking the initiative to make this event a reality. Here we go. And we are here to cover those replays, to cover those matches. We did so back in January, doing so here in February as well, and we'll do so in every month thereafter. Oh boy, and we have our first two matches ready for us here. uThermal, of course, did pair up with Goblin. uThermal and Goblin, they have been competing in 2v2 for quite some time now. They're good friends. They're going to be going up against some more unknowns here in Uronos and GuGus. Oh boy, let us go. And again, that's what's so fun about this. Like my favorite thing about these 2v2 events that we've covered so far is, one, you get to see which players are friends and which players are interacting with each other with certain pairings, like Max, Pax, and Spirit are teammates, Clem and Trigger are teammates, for example, as well, and you get many more pairings throughout the event. Likewise, you also see the evolution of the meta as well. I say the evolution of the meta just because, again, specifically for 2v2, it's something that there was some like interest in 2v2, like again many years ago, but the meta has been quite stagnant, and we have seen that it has been evolving over time, over these past 2 months, just because now pro players are actually playing. Like they're actually playing, they're actually getting involved, they're actually invested in the 2v2 scene. So yeah, it's been great to see that evolution. Specifically as well, there is a new kind of feature in this month's event, a strategy that was quite prevalent in January, and I do recommend the VODs. I recommend the VODs of the January event if you guys missed out on it. But the January event did actually have a lot of strategies involving feeding, where, I mean, we actually saw this during the WTL 2v2 tournament, if you remember. Specifically, we casted Spirit and Raynor. They were teammates, and Spirit, he was just like a bank. Like Spirit, he didn't make a single unit. He was purely making SEVs, CCs, and it was just feeding Raynor, and Raynor was going like mass muta, and it did quite well for himself. Like that was, again, over a year ago at this point, back in the WTL 2v2 event that they did host. Here we saw similar strategies, specifically something that was better than that. Again, Zerg is considered to be a little bit weaker, or the weakest race in 2v2, but we had a lot of feeding strategies involving Mass Phoenix, where we had players like Gabe, like uThermal, he was feeding his partner a lot of minerals and gas so that they could go Mass Phoenix. We saw it as well featured between Spirit and Max Pax. Basically Terran and Protoss, they're they're considered to be the strongest pairing. They're the strongest pairing in 2v2, and there was a lot of feeding strategies involving Mass Phoenix, and Mass Phoenix was just something that was plaguing the January event. Was a little fun to see, don't get me wrong, but to try to combat this, a new mod has been created and implemented for this tournament where players are not actually able to feed. They're not actually able, when I say feed, I should reiterate, quote-unquote feeding is the idea of your partner sharing resources, which is a feature in 2v2 where you can just send minerals and gas to your partner, to your teammate. So that is the thing, but now we're going to be working with a mod that does limit that. I say limit that, basically, I believe it's for the first 5.5 minutes-ish of the game, feeding is, you're not able to. Basically, the period in time where you're able to give resources to your opponent has been limited, or now is more restricted, to try to avoid those kind of strategies. So yeah, that has been done. Not saying that those strategies are like quote unquote imbalanced. It's just it incentivizes a certain play style that goes against the spirit of 2v2. Where in 2v2 you want 2 players and 2 armies working together, whereas it incentivized basically 1v2, where you have one player that's solely giving resources to the other, and the other is doing all the work. And even though like that can be a little fun in certain aspects, again, it takes away from the idea of 2v2 and what is wanted out of these games and out of this tournament. So that is why that has been changed. Coming into March, we're going to be taking more feedback, and we might extend that. We might make some other changes as well, again, depending on what we like, what we don't like, what we want to push, what we don't want to incentivize as well. Again, the 2v2 kind of like landscape is changing over time, and we'll see what we do settle on. Here we go. No one ever used that feature back then. Wait, took way too much time to send over it. It was very prevalent. very prevalent. But here we go. We are going to be jumping into our first series here, into our first game. Game 1 is going to be on Undercurrent. Let's go. And of course, the map pool is the current 2v2 map pool as well. Here we go. We are jumping in. Are going to be jumping in. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Undercurrent, we have the duo themselves. We have the man of the hour. We have the red Protoss player living in the land of Mexico, papi. We have El Manchego alongside his teammate, the red Terran player for the Platinum Heroes. It is Goblin. So together they are Goblin and uThermal. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have their opponents going for some cheese. Oh my god, going for a committed proxy. Both of them are. We have the blue Terran player in GuGus even, and we have the, I believe, German Protoss in Urono. Let's go. The Marauder team. Here we go, and here we go. The Raxes are being thrown down as we speak. Likewise, a proxy pylon as well. Now, based on this location, one, I would love to jump into the map itself. I've never played or even casted on Undercurrent, I don't think. So there's a lot to get into here. We have a pocket base. It looks like uThermal is going to be rushing into, so he's going to be rushing into that natural a little bit faster. We see Goblin walling off that ramp that much faster as well. Just fully wall off with that incomplete depot, but we are committed here with the proxies. Gateways are on the way. Raxes are on the way as well. Back at home, no gas. No gas here for the Terran, no gas for the Protoss. This tells us it is going to be Proxy Marine and Proxy Zealot. A very committed, very aggressive, I mean, it's all in. We're going for a one-base all in, essentially, from both sides. And for the time being, both uThermal and Goblin are in the dark. Now, what's important here, uThermal, no probe scout. There is no probe scout. There's now a delayed SCV scout here by Goblin. He is going to be moving out across the map, but as he moves out, full wall. There's a full wall off back at home. We have one gateway here, pylon depot. I'm loving that both players are working together here, like that we're working in unison, papi. We're syncing up, and we're walling up, we're walling off. This means that Goblin is going to be in the dark. The duo here of uThermal and Goblin have no idea. Oh, third... Jesus, okay. I thought it was a third CC for a moment because of the setup here. Going for the CC on the high ground, so economic opener, Rax expand out of Goblin. Next is all gate expand here by uThermal. Economic builds overall, and right now they are in trouble. They don't know what's happening. Reaper scanning. Okay, so far so good. Goblin, he will check bottom right. He is searching here for any kind of proxy shenanigans going on. Alas, checking the wrong location here as it's a proxy 4x. Jesus. We have our 4 racks set up. Marines are amassing. Zealots are amassing as well. It's going to be a 3-gate proxy from our Protoss player, bearing in mind that I'm not going to be including this 4th gateway across the map as it is not doing anything. So 3 gates and 4 racks. And here we go. The army is pushing in. We have a couple of boys as well to help buffer, to help support. And what is at home to defend? Well, Warp Gate just started. Warp Gate just began. We have 1 Stalker being chronoed as we speak. So it's going to be 1 Stalker for uThermal. Shield batteries on the way. Likewise, there's 1 Reaper to defend. Marines are on the way, but here we go. We're diving on in. We're going for the wall. Depot is going to be knocked down. And the army busts in. There's that 1 Stalker. And again, shield batteries are on the way. With the armies, they do split up. Boys are being pulled. So far, good kiting here from these Marines. Else they try to dive on top of the Marines. They're trying to get on top of them. More boys being pulled. And with the help of these SCVs and probes, Goblin and uThermal, can they hold on? That's a lot of fire. Oh my god. It's a lot of fire. That's 17 Marines. And the SCVs are going down. The SCVs are falling one after the other. Bunker dots complete. But there's barely any repairs. SCVs are targeted down. Oh, clutch repairs, but there we go. The SCVs are falling one after the other. The bunker will fall. Goblin is broken. Shield batteries are done, and we do see uThermal. He's holding on. He's holding on. He's kiting well here with these stalkers. But he lost all the probes. He lost all of his workers, and Goblin, he's dead. Goblin, he's out of this. There's no economy, 0 income here for Goblin. It's all on uThermal with these 3 stalkers. Can he hold on? As Goblin, the last bunker here is falling. Marines are still flooding in across the map. Oh, Hellion has arrived. There's a Hellion. And Goblin, he can survive, he can hold. And from here, uThermal and Goblin, they can try to stabilize. Whew. They can try to stabilize here. Goblin, he's down to 1 SCV. 1 SCV and a handful of mules. uThermal does have a bit of a better economy here. He's got, what, 9 probes? Now, what's important here is that both of their opponents, both at GuGus, as well as Urono, they have an economy. They have a greater economy back at home. So 1 base versus 1 base. Their armies are being forced back. There is potential with these Reapers. They could actually zoom across the map because they make economic damage. Could happen. Now the armies are being forced back. Here comes Reaper Hellion. Again, there is potential for damage here in these mineral lines, as they should be able to bust up the ramp. Now the Protoss can always recall, true. As there's no energy. Not enough energy for a recall. The armies are vulnerable, but they're racing back home. And again, I don't think it's the worst idea to transition into a macro game from here and just expand, as they do have a lead, but here we go. The Reapers have arrived. The Reapers, they bust in. They get a probe kill so far. The army's racing back home. No recall. And Urono, he is in a bit of trouble here, but there we go. There's a warp in. Gets an adept. Zones away the Reapers, and he holds. And he's got 19 workers, as opposed to the... What? Oh, God. Actually, let's see here. 19 workers as opposed to the 20 of uThermal. So the economies of uThermal and Uronos are quite similar with each other. It's Goblin who's really hurting here. It's Goblin who's really struggling. Now, thankfully, he does have a second base here, so he can make 2 SCVs at a time, and he has extra mules, so he is on the road to recovery here. And remember, because of the rule where you can't share resources, at least for a longer time, uThermal, he can't necessarily give resources to... He can't really give resources to Goblin as quickly. But I believe that time is about to expire. So he should be able to help give Goblin some resources, some minerals, some gas. As it is now open, now available, and we have a game. We have a game here. And I do have to give the edge here to the blue team. Like, blue team, they're in a slightly better position. Obviously, the production, the gateways are abandoned. That is true. But so far, they have not been found. They have not been found. They're still operational. Warp gate is done. Goblin dives in. Ooh, he's going to be shut down, though. A nice cleanup. Both Reapers will fall. And we'll see if uThermal can recover. From here, went for a Stargate opener into double Oracle. Oracle's moving out across the map. We can see that Goblin, he's rushing into Hyperflight Rotors. He's going Massive Banshee. And these are good ways to harass and to make use of your greater control and micro. Typically, it's, oh no! 1 Oracle goes down. Massive pickoff. 1 Oracle with 1 probe. That is not worth of a uThermal. Yeah, massive loss. Viking arrives and uThermal's being completely shut down. There's potential with these Oracles, but they do no damage. They kill 1 probe. 1 worker. Oh, yo, look at the... I remember this map. It's got like the dinosaur noises. But I'm loving the ley lines here. Like I'm loving the undercurrents. Looks good. Jesus. Oh my God. Loving the visuals. As so far, blue team defends well. uThermal and Goblin back at home, building up. Looks like Goblin's working towards mech, as he's building up tanks and more banshees. There is no sim. Oh, my apologies. Yeah, there's no sim. Sim is on the way from blue team. So buy a tank here from Uronos. Natural race has been taken, getting ready for a third, building up, and working towards that mid game. And this is still a very tense situation here. Obviously, the power of uThermal and Goblin are the fact of their macro, the unit control is going to be greater than that of their opponents, so they can recover. But the reality is that they are recovering, right? They're building back up from a deficit, and that advantage may be enough here for blue team to overwhelm. So we're now looking to gain map control, moving out. Blink is almost done, so we're waiting for Blink, waiting for Stim as well, waiting for the upgrades. Likewise, uThermal also going into his own Massive Blink Stalker, double forge, double upgrades. Blink is almost done for uThermal. They're going to try to shut him down. Ooh, as he's going to be cornered here. Oh, try to blink away, bleeding out 2 Stalkers, 3 Stalkers. Ay, ay, ay. 3 Stalkers getting picked off. Big losses here for uThermal. Terran army trying to keep up. But at this point, it's going to be on red team to just turtle. Just turtle up here. We have tank lines, bunkers. They should be secure here on their like 3-2 bases. Expanding from here, though, is going to be difficult. Whether it's this northern base, the space on the left, the base on the right, much more exposed locations. And they shouldn't be able to expand too freely. This is where the blue team should be just being a little bit greedier, taking their 3rd bases and getting into our 4th as well. Oh, the eyes! The Banshees, they get across the map. Ooh, not bad. Getting actually 12 kills. Sorry, 11. 11 SV kills here from the Banshees. Nicely done. With that, the economies are being crippled. Down to 47 SCVs compared to the 47 of his opponent. uThermal, he does have 3-base saturation. The other Protoss player here late to take a 3rd. And just like that, red team has better economy. They have a better economy. This 3rd base was so late. That might have been what the eyes were for, actually. And uThermal, he's surpassing the blue Protoss. Straight up. He's surpassing him when it comes to macro. And the Terrans are evening up. I think I do favor our blue Terran compared to Goblin right now, just because of that 3rd. But we'll see if we can actually make use of the army. Goblin now working towards Bio, Stim, +1, Bio tank. Low ground expansions on the way. And again, can they hold on to this gold? This is going to be a pivotal moment here for this game. Will the red team be allowed to take advantage of that gold expansion? It's on blue team to deny it. They have to. So good. Moving in. Does move in. Sims on board, takes out the first tank and denies the expansion. Massive pickoff. Expansion goes out, and again, this is the win condition. Like, this is all we need to do for blue team is deny the base, deny the expansion here wherever it's taken, and starve the red team out. Blinks on forward, catches the tank. Not bad. At the same time, Mass Banshee does hit the Protoss, does hit the mineral line. Cannon goes down, probes as well. 2 so far. Yeah, getting even more, wreaking havoc. Okay, wow. Do you have our Terran player dropping into the mineral line? Oh, he's going to be deflected. Likewise, trying to force their way into the tank line. And again, there's no need for this. Yeah, the army's being overwhelmed. Both uThermal and Goblin, they shut down the main army. Again, just overly aggressive. No reason to push into these bases to be overly aggressive. Nice drop into the main, forcing the recall. But the blue team main armies, yeah, they crumble. Losing their bio, their drops, the stalkers as well. And now uThermal and Goblin, now they can expand. Now they can expand. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, the win condition was to contain, Bobby. Oh, no. I mean, shout out to Goblin and those Banshees, by the way. They did well for themselves. I mean, they're still alive. Like, they're still up and running. The Banshees. And now here come the bases. Both Goblin and uThermal, they both expand. We're going to maintain their economies. He's going to catch on some of these Zealots. Storm is soon beginning here for... Oh, never mind. Was cancelled. Storm was cancelled. No splash damage yet. Just mainly gateway compositions. Proxy's finally being cleaned up. Finally, he's going to go down. And then we can see Goblin double expanding. Taking his third, taking his fourth base. Building up his own army. Looking to be the first to max out. Nice catching on these Stalkers. uThermal losing almost everything here. And again, he has no power units. There's no Colossus or Storm to support. uThermal losing most of his Stalkers. Oh. GuGus getting within range of the mineral line. Also, I saw him in the chat. Is it Gus? Did I just call you Gus? Is that GuGus? I don't know. I'll call you Gus. At the same time, though, uThermal getting pulled apart here. Drop into the main. Push towards his fourth base. Likewise, also with his Stalkers. Nice catch so far. Yeah, attempts to sell it around by here, but so far, back at home, Urono, he does shut that down. He defends, he attacks. uThermal, he's hurting. Oh my god. He lost his army, lost his economy. Now it's time for Goblin to carry. And can he? Urono pushing right down mid. Back at home. His teammate was defending. Nice splits. Ooh, tanks are exposed. Yeah, 2 tanks going down. Nice pickups here from Goblin, getting up to 3, getting up to 4. Every tank is going to get picked off. Massive catch. At the same time, Urono's, Gus, he does dive in. Pushing towards the base, getting surrounded. But who's around 2? Protoss army's coming in. Gus does pull away. Saves most of his bio, takes down the gold. Not bad. As it's happening, Zealot run by as they continue. There is a warping in time. And we rotate. We rotate once again, catching another tank. Just resetting that tank count. Overextending a little bit here. It has to pull away. Gus has to retreat. Has to back up. And as the dust settles here, uThermal, he's hurting. uThermal, he's struggling to maintain himself. Mainly focusing on Zealot run-bys more than anything. Is getting desperate. I do favor the blue Protoss army for now. With Archons, Immortals, just a little bit more complex. Can be more impactful in a fight. Likewise, +3 coming into play here for our blue Terran. Oh. Yeah, it does have the upgrade advantage. Double upgrade advantage here. That's +3 attack to +1. Ay, ay, ay. And Goblin, he can't do this on his own. Where's his teammate? He's across the map. Hey, kills a base. Gas expansion. Just non-stop Zealot run-bys out of uThermal. Getting to the mineral lines, catching out tanks. Main army's about to clash. And again, Goblin is 1v2ing. Planetary goes down. Ooh. Gus does abandon his teammate here. Getting an Archon, getting an Immortal as well. Massive pickups. But Storm is done. Storm is now done. These Zealot run-bys, they're just... they're non-stop. uThermal getting a mineral line. Takes out a base, takes out a mineral line. I mean, this is good harassing damage. uThermal, he's not out of this. But we'll lose the base. We'll lose an expansion. So close to going down. uThermal's economy is barely holding on. More DTs in the main as well. Distracting uThermal. Still going for Zealot run bys. But I'm most concerned about the main fights. Now, 2-2 has completed here for Goblin, so now he's not as far behind when it comes to the upgrades. But here comes the Storm. Avoid the EP! Oh my god. Yeah, 5 High Templar, each with at least 1 Storm. Goblin, he can't do this on his own. Not by himself, Pat. Stalker's getting caught out. Base is gonna fall. Yeah, both bases even. We spoke about it earlier, but these bases are so difficult to hold on to. They're on the low ground. There's barely any defensive advantage here. From the terrain, I mean. And uThermal, he's broke. At this point, he's broke. Still just going for Zealot run bys. Goblin, he sneaks out across the map. Not bad. Takes out a Nexus. Moves in once again, just bullying the blue Protoss. But it's Gustavo, Papi. He's the terrifying player here. Gustavo. So they do get into the mineral lines. Let's see Gus trying to catch the main army. Strong bars are being cleaned up. Now rotating over. So let's rotate over here towards Goblin. And again, Goblin just cannot keep up here. Has to pull the boys. SV's going down. I'm a little bit disappointed we never saw any storms here. I was looking forward to it, Pappy. Looking forward to it. As Goblin is being broken. And again, he's on his own. He's being overwhelmed. Goblin half his army across the map. Getting damage done. Gus from here, he can stim in. Headed towards the bases. And alongside the mass DT as well. I mean, there's not much of him to defend. We're going for the base trade. Storms popping up. Hey, we did barely catch a glimpse of them. And there is some counter damage, don't get me wrong, but GG gets called. There's nothing left for him to defend, and both Urono and Gus, they do take game number 1. GG. Whew. GG, well played. Again, a really rough start for uThermal Goblin team for their duo. Again, unfortunately, they went for very economic builds, and it took them a long time to recognize what was going on. Their scout was denied across the map. Unfortunately as well, Goblin, if you remember, his Reaper scout was on the right-hand side, not towards the left, so he did miss the proxy. As a result, they were caught with their pants down. It was critical damage early on. What I will say is that I was very impressed here that both uThermal and Goblin did recover. They did recover. We spoke earlier how like a big point of contention was whether or not they could actually take a 4th base, and they did. They were able to eventually break out. We saw both Gus and Uronos took a really, I say a rough fight. They did overextend. They took a rough fight. With that, both Goblin and uThermal were able to break out and take more bases. We saw that Goblin was able to sustain himself somewhat. uThermal, unfortunately, was building up to that, did double expand, did get the gold base, but alas, he was harassed so often, whether it was with drop play, Zealot run bys, DT counterattacks as well. There was a lot of economic damage being dealt here to uThermal, which meant that he couldn't really be too much of a factor here in this game. He was going for counterattacks, don't get me wrong, but uThermal, he never really built up a main army, never really got into any splash damage of his own to support Goblin with Storm, with Colossus, with Disruptors. Likewise, just never got into any Archons or anything like that either. Just purely Zealot, and Stalker of course as well, but just a much more limited army that did have a hard time supporting Goblin. GG. GG, well played. Whew, it was an intense game 1, and now we are jumping into game number 2. Let's go. When it comes to getting into the rest of the series, I did see someone in the chat asking, who was it? Was it Este Cyberjohn? If you haven't read the title, this is a replay cast. Just to reiterate, we were adminning and running the tournament at the time, and we are going to be going over these matches via replays instead. I believe uThermal and Steadfast did cover it live. This was, what, less than a week ago? But here on the CranKy Ducklings, we do work behind the scenes for the event. Because of that, we're not able to cast it live, but we're able to cover it via replays instead. So here we go. We are able to cover it via replays, and game 2 is going to be on Ruscallion. And spawning in the top left-hand corner of Rascallion, we have the duo themselves. We have the red duo, the man of the hour himself. We have El Manchego, papi. We have from the land of the Netherlands, living in the land of Mexico, we have uThermal and Goblin. As the red duo, and in the bottom right-hand corner, we have their opponents. We have, rocking Zerg this time. Interesting. We have our blue Zerg player alongside our blue Protoss. We have Gus and Urono. Here we go. Have our blue duo. Interesting that we are going to be switching races coming into Rascallion. Rascallion is one of the older maps in the map pool. I'm referring to the 2v2 ladder map pool at this point. Has been around for a very, very long time. The 2v2 map pool was revamped relatively recently, I want to say last year, which was very exciting. It just hasn't happened in a very, very long time. That's where we were introduced to maps like Undercurrent and Yellow Jacket, for example. But Rascallion has been around for what, 5 years, I want to say. It's been a long time. It's been around for a very, very long time. A map we're a little bit more familiar with here. We do have shared bases. Our main bases are shared, similar to the previous map, but likewise shared natural bases as well. The third bases are a little bit more spread out, a little bit more isolated, but the map itself is very large, very prone to longer macro games. Because all these bases are shared as well, because the attack paths are much more limited, it is a little bit easier for both players to defend against run-bys together, to defend against counterattacks. And again, I'm looking forward to potentially a more standard back and forth, especially considering that this time, no proxy. This time there is no proxy, this time there is no crazy rush. We do have our initial hatch gas pool out of our Zerg player, and likewise Urono, our Protoss, going for a gate expand into Cybercore as well. So standard openers, no cheese, not this time. But so far, strong start, right? They're up 1-0 in this series. It is going to be a best of 3, of course. Should fix that, there we go. Is a best of 3. And we'll see how our players can compare to each other with a much more even start to the game. Here we go. Gus is fine now. There you go. There you go. So now we do have our tech of choice. Once again, we do see uThermal going for a Stargate opener. We did see this previously, and the Oracles, it is slow to get damage done. If you recall, the first Oracle went down real fast and real quick. Hopefully this time, Goblin said uThermal, but hopefully this time Goblin can get more done. Can show uThermal how it's done, I should say. Show him how it's done. uThermal rolling Terran this time instead. So both players playing their main races. As previously, we had the opposite. They were having fun. Meanwhile, we have Uronos. Keep saying Uronos. We have Urono going for a proxy across the map, setting up with a gateway to reinforce. Adept does shade into the mineral line, getting 1, getting up to 2 drones. Not bad. Likewise, Reaper into the main. Get shut down. From here is going to be forced back our players to do defend. And interesting, I assumed it was going to be an Oracle, but no, it's going to be a Void Ray opener instead. Again, with a Void Ray, the goal here is to hunt down the Overlords. Hunt down the Overlords is to deny vision, deny scouting, and to keep the opposing team in the dark. And from here, we can do something crazy. We can rush into Skytos, rush into early Glaive Adepts, rush into early tech, and keep everything hidden, ideally. Let's see if we can pull that off. Meanwhile, we have a 3-gate setup here from Urono, applying a lot of pressure, warping in 3 Stalkers at a time, and Lings, they are flooding across the map. We are cutting worker production here. Only 10 drones. Only 10 drones here at the natural. We're going for the all-in. We are going to be committing, putting Hellions back in to defend. Shield battery has been thrown down. And so far, they're trading well. Again, the natural base is very wide open. There's not much SimCity to work with. But it looks like we're committing to the all-in. Yeah, no drones. No drones whatsoever here. No saturation. Pure Link Stalker out of our blue team. Oof. Marshall goes up. Taking down 3 Stalkers, 4 Stalkers already. Oh my god. Yeah, the Stalkers get shut down. Lings, they evaporate here against the Hellions. Very nice kiting from uThermal. Goblin and uThermal, they do hold, they do defend. They shut down the aggression. And I see a drone in production. I mean, at this point, it's a little bit too late here to start saturating. Very late. And alas, the blue team, they are in trouble. Nice attendance around. But last Hellies, they shut down the Lings, and the blue team, they are far behind. The biggest problem here is, one, of course, saturation, the tech, the economy, all here is just far behind for the blue team. Now, there is a chance that maybe uThermal and Goblin overextend. If they counterattack, if they get caught in the center of the map, if there's like a backstab, blink into the main base, Link Flood, Link Run By, there are ways here to recover, but for the most part, the red team here is looking quite secure. They're looking very secure, very comfortable. Even throwing down extra shield batteries. Link is on the way for our blue team. Saturating the natural. And there is a lot of catching up to do. I mean, it's almost like a reverse from the previous game state, where in game 1 we had uThermal and Goblin that were behind and they had to recover from an economic deficit. Similarly here, it's now the blue team's turn to be behind economically and to try to recover. Let's go. Meanwhile, Hellion Dive is not going to commit. Hellions, they pull away. They do pull away. Now, what I will say is that, thankfully, there's no third base. There's no third base yet here. We do see that both uThermal and Goblin has been playing very safe, and because of that, their third bases are delayed, and this will help out the blue team. Oh, I think they just keep getting thrown down. Meanwhile, nice catch. Uronos picking up a handful of Hellions. No major harassing damage. Blue Flame is now done. And the uThermal, he does not get into the mineral line. Nice cleanup. Nice defense here from Uronos. He protects his boy. But the armies are breaking out. And more importantly, should emphasize here that uThermal is playing mech. It is going to be a mech composition here, not bio like we saw previously from Goblin. Is meching it up. Link Runway is attempted. Link Runway is shut down. And they are slowly expanding. Establishing themselves on these 3 bases. We do see a transition into a very Roach-heavy composition initially. Roaches into Hydra. So Roach Hydra here out of our Zerg player. And our Protoss for now just incorporating Mass Gateway. Into charge. 2-1. Temple Archives on the way for Archons and Storm. Relatively robust army. This Goblin is posturing. Did build up to 3 Void Rays. Just to be safe. And once our upgrades, or once Blink now kicks in for Goblin, he can start being more active. As they're initially just establishing a third base for uThermal. And for now, there's no major aggression from either player. Unfortunately, a bunch of Roaches were forced out here by Gus. This is setting him behind. Ideally, if you can get away with it, you want to avoid that. To saturate that much harder, to be greedy, and given this kind of game state, being greedy is kind of the game plan here for the blue team, just to recover from earlier. Ooh, and the move out is upon us. Here comes the push. We've been building up towards this moment. Blink is now done. Now we have a mech army to support. Now the move out is spotted. Blue team is aware. They're getting ready. They're setting up. Hydras amassing. No Ravagers yet. Bear that in mind. So that it's going to be a little bit more difficult to deal with these tanks. As they're getting within range here of the mineral line. Charge is done. Trying to collapse in. Goblin is here to support. Oh no! Ooh, stage trap's going to be going up. Massive connections. And again, that's a solid tank line here. Yeah, the army just cannot be touched. uThermal is secure. And we're going for a counterattack. Honestly, wise move. Again, like with this many tanks and this much protection, this much support, this positioning can't really be broken. Roaches catching reinforcements. They get a tank. Nice pickup. At the same time, Hellion Run By getting a couple of drones. Alright, Goblin, he responds. He will clean this up. He shuts down the Roaches. Roaches are going down. uThermal not really gaining much ground here, but is at least denying mining. There's no mining whatsoever here at the natural. Zerg players stuck on the 3-base economy. One tank left behind. red team is rotating. We are rotating over. Now we have disruptors. Now, Goblin, he shouldn't be committing in here. He's just picking up a couple of key units wherever he can. We're waiting for uThermal. How many tanks do we have? 50. Jesus, 15 tanks. Oh my god, that's a lot of tanks. Again, the armies are looking terrifying. Viper production has begun, and Vipers are going to be key here when it comes to the hold. If they can land those blinding clouds or abductions, that's going to be a big if, though. Again, Goblin pushing forward. Tank still lagging a little bit behind. And again, there's just no solid way to deal with these tank lines. No, without the Vipers. Army moves in. Vipers push forward. Oh! Duck the Void Ray. They're still gaining value. But the tanks are encroaching. the tanks are coming in! And they can't be stopped. 1, 2 yoinks here on the tanks. But they're within range. Yeah, massive tank shots going off. Nova goes off as well. Massive connection. And the base falls. The base starts to crumble. At the same time, we have an attempted run by. There are planetaries back at home. Red team will defend. So take more expansions. Behind this, how many Vipers? 4. There's still 4 Vipers. There's still potential. The tanks, they are exposed. At the same time, Goblin going for a counterattack. Blinks on in. Oh my god, we go for the dive. Where are the Vipers? Vipers are lagging behind. Massive tank shots going off. Oh my god. We dropped luckily some of these disruptors, but that was not the cleanest trade here for the Protoss. Ay, ay, ay. Goblin response despite that decent cleanup here on these tanks. It was just really costly. It was a really costly trade. That was what, 5 Archons going down and an Immortal. Ay, ay, ay. Not the most cohesive attack here from blue team. As there was a lot of potential there. For blinding clouds, for abductions, massive Nova is going to be going up. So you yank another tank. But the tank count's still insane. Back here we have some War Prism attempted harass. Goblin keeps up. They keep up, they deflect. Storm now on the way for Goblin. Now, what I will say, thankfully, the Viper count has been left untouched. Like, the Viper count is still looking very solid. I'll be honest, at this point, I wouldn't be opposed to even more Vipers, considering just how many targets there are. Like, these Vipers, they have a lot to do. They have to blind and cloud the tanks, they have to abduct the disruptors, like this. And there is limited anti-air for the red team, at least there was. Thor production has begun. Like, it looks like they've kind of recognized their weakness, recognized the threat of those Vipers. Getting into Thors. Does start rotating their bases. Decent abductions. Takes down most of the disruptors. Not bad. That's what, 4 or 5 disruptors going down. Much more efficient trade from our Zerg. Good start. Do lose the base though. We can see an attempted surround. Stasis goes off on the Vipers. They need energy. Gus has to retreat. Love that energy. Oh god. And again, I don't think Uronos can really dive into this without that Viper support. Not on his own. Ah, no. He's gonna try to 1v2. Yeah, Storm's going off. Massive tank shot. Oh no. And the Protoss army is gonna crumble. He just cannot push into this. Not on his own. No, without the Vipers. Ay, ay, ay. Not like this. And just a brutal fight. And now we can just focus on one army at a time. Hellion shots going off. They annihilate the Hydras. And the blue team is crumbling. As they'll just focus down one after the other. Goblin pushing in. The Vipers, I mean, hey, they still survive, by the way. Like, The Vipers, they were left alive almost the entire game. Let's go. Storm's gonna be zoning away. Mech Army moving in, and GG gets called. As uThermal and Goblin, they will fight back, and they will tie the series 1-1. GG. Whew. Let's go. GG, well played. We are going to the ace match. We have it back and forth. Again, both uThermal and Goblin looking much more comfortable in this kind of game state here with a more stable and more even early game, I should say. We still saw an all-in from the side of Gus and Urono. It was a bit of a later all-in here with a Link Flood and 3-gate Blink with a proxy, of course. Unfortunately, especially on these maps where you have these shared bases, it is much more difficult here to break that kind of position. We had some shield batteries in time, Void Rays, Hellions in time as well. A really, really nice defense from uThermal and Goblin. But we'll see how this story ends. We'll find out. As we're loading into the ace match, we're going to be loading into Reclamation as game 3. Let's go. Let us go. Now, we have seen all-ins twice now from our blue team, I will say, and we'll see if we see that once again, as I should also emphasize here that Gus is rolling random. That is why he has been landing on different races, both in game 1 and game 2, is going to be the case here in game 3 as well. As spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have our red team. We have our duo here, the duo of the hour. We have uThermal alongside Goblin. Let's go. Once again playing their main races, which was not the case in game 1. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have their opponents. We have the blue duo here, the Protoss and the Terran. Once again, it is Gus and Urono. Urono, let's go. Let us go. We have our blue team here. And this time, no proxy. This time, there is no proxy. There are no Raxes across the map. We have a probe scout, but no big commitment early on. But based on how they've been playing so far in this series, I'm expecting aggression of some kind. At least based on game 1 and game 2. We'll see if they do calm things down and enter a more macro kind of game state, which can be very intimidating, especially when you're going up against pro players. I feel like that's where players like uThermal and Goblin can really thrive, is kind of in a more standard setting. So we'll see if we can knock them off balance. For now, just scouting each other, ensuring there is no shenanigans going on. Is going to be a Rax Expand, Economic Opener here out of uThermal. Likewise, Gate Cyber Expand out of Goblin as well. Nothing crazy, nothing wild. Ooh, meanwhile, we do have Urono being a little bit greedier here. Gate Expand, so a faster Nexus, cutting corners. So a slightly greedier build here from our blue Protoss player. And even does force the lift up here and denies the add-on. Not bad. I appreciate it. But no, he's popping up. Greedier opener, disrupts the build. CC now in the way. Ooh, actually, uThermal forces right down the factory before the CC as well. Interesting. So players are building up. The blue team is going to have a slightly better economy compared to their counterparts. It's going to be a better economy initially, but we'll see if they can keep up with the harass, as Goblin is going to be opening up Stargate once again. Now, last game, this Stargate opener led into Void Rays and led into additional Void Rays after they had recognized there was an all-in coming. We'll see if he goes Void Ray once again, or if he opens up Oracle. As opposed to the previous game, because there's no Zerg player, there's no Overlord, so I feel like there's less value in opening up Void Ray, as we saw, as opposed to the previous game. So Oracle or Phoenix would make more sense. And there it is, Oracle is on the way. Meanwhile, we have our blue duo just scouting for proxies, making sure there's no crazy tech here out on the map. They check the thirds, the fourth locations as well. They're being very persistent here and very clinical with their scouting. Very adamant, what I was to say. Behind this, we have our 1-1-1 setup. Early tank out of our blue Terran. Reaper dips in. And the Reaper will confirm the opener. Sees the Stargate, the Oracle as well. Stargate sees the Phoenix being built alongside this. So nice scouts. Now they recognize to prepare back at home. This is where the early tank is going to be hurting Gus. This is also why, at least in 1v1, it's more common to go Cyclone first, especially if you don't know the tech of the Protoss, just so you can be safe and secure against something like an Oracle Opener. Yeah, so the tank is going to be hurting here, as it doesn't really help, doesn't really support. It's getting 1, 2, 3 SCVs. And we're not done. 3 SCV kills so far, getting a 4th SCV. Oh, God. And yeah, we're just running rings here around the blue duo. 6 worker kills. Hellions looking for a dive as well. This time they run into the main army. 1 Hellion goes down. Takes 2 volleys. And they get 1 probe. And not as worth it. Just the 1 probe. They do hold, they do defend. Now, those 6 SCV kills, that makes up for the otherwise slightly less economic start here from our red team. So they make up for that. Gus moving out. We have a 2nd Stargate going Mass Phoenix. So Mass Phoenix here from a Goblin. As he's building up. And Phoenixes, I mean, we've seen how effective they can be here in 2v2. They do such a great job here just supporting the main army. Picking off tanks, medevacs. Just see our blue team moving out. They run into the Hellions. Oh. Stasis is set. Oh no! Does notice. Whew. Oh no, he doesn't! Oh, massive connection on the entire army. Ay, ay, ay. The Stasis pops up, and red team, they can reposition. They can move their tanks forward, and they will. Yeah, they scan ahead of time. Tanks, they're getting within range. Remember, there is no blink. Oh, wait, no, sorry, there is. There is blink. Stalkers, they can try to escape. Hellbat say morph in. And Stalkers, oh, they do dive forward. He's crazy. Dives on top of the tanks, he gets 1. Takes out 1 tank, gets a 2nd tank as well. Alas, there's a bunker, plans to defend, the boys are pulled to repair, and the tank survives. Tank does survive, so does the bunker. And with that, the blue team, they're being forced back. Alas, they're still committing, going for another warp in. Behind this, we have a 4-gate setup, so 4-gate Blink Stalker. We'll bring in 4 Stalkers at a time. But reinforcements, alas, they take a long time to arrive. And the tank count was reset. Likewise, Phoenix is catching reinforcements. They're still committed. Alas, I don't know, he's not probing. He hasn't been probing in quite some time. He's 2 base all in, essentially. Just now making a wave of probes. And is looking for a way into the main. Stasis is set. Stasis is set. Here, Gus going for a drop at the same time. Rotating over, trying to distract the red team. I'm getting game 1 vibes here. With uThermal going for Zealot Rambites all the time here. Hellion dives. And he can one-shot. Probes are going down. They line up. No! They do line up. And I mean, Uronos, he barely had economy to begin with. Barely had one. Now down to what? 6 SCVs or 6 probes at the natural. Dives into the main. Stasis goes off. Dropping to the main base as well. This marine drop is getting damage done. The Stalkers less so. Hellions, they race back. They shut down the drop. At least try to. They get a couple of SCVs, not bad. It's what, 5 SCV kills? 5 SCVs go down. But again, the problem here is that Goblin's expanding. He's getting a 3rd base. Likewise, uThermal fully saturated on 2 bases, getting a 3rd himself. They're building up towards the mid game. And our blue team less so. There is still that 3rd CC finishing up. Ooh, and they shut down the initial Oracle. I'm still worried for Uronos, as he's still building back up. Behind this, no charge, no forges, no upgrades. Mass Phoenix diving in. Hits the mineral line once again. And the Hellion robots, they just keep going. Oh my god. And the blue Protoss, he barely had no economy to begin with, and once again, he just cannot build up. He just wants to make probes, Pappy. He just wants to make... Oh, God. He just wants an economy as he's being pulled apart here. The Hellions and the Phoenixes, they're just bullying Urono. Ay, ay, ay. Still has a decent Stalker Force, don't get me wrong, but he's all in. Like, there's no economy behind this. There's no sustain. He has to commit. And it's all or nothing for Team Blue. For Gus and Urono. Last uThermal is already set up. Tank lines are set. The base is under fire. Red zoning those Phoenixes away. Phoenixes are zoned. Once again, rotating. Oh, going for the dive. And not many tanks in position. Yeah, just 2 tanks for now, but the mass lift here on the Stalkers, lifting almost every single Stalker. The lifts. He lifts Pappy. Oh my god. The Stalkers, the Marines as well. Tanks are left alone. And likewise, they should be cleaned up. As Phoenixes, they reign supreme. GG gets called. And uThermal and Goblin, they will take the series at 2-1. GG. GG, well played. Oh my god, did go all the way to the ace match, and there was an intense back and forth, but last uThermal and Goblin, they will stabilize, they play their main races, and they do look solid here. Shout out, of course, though, to Gus and Urono, as they did play very well for themselves, both in Game 1, and as well here, Game 2 and Game 3. In Game 1, we saw their initial proxy just have as much success as possible. Didn't quite kill uThermal and Goblin, but they were able to maintain their lead and maintain their position. Coming into Game 2, it was a bit of a rougher start, of course, when it comes to the initial Link Flood, the initial all-in, which did kind of fall in his face. Game 3, a little bit more back and forth, but we saw that the harassment was brutal, whether it was the Oracle harass, the Hellion harass, the Phoenixes as well. Unfortunately, they did have a very hard time keeping up early on. I was earlier talking about the early tank production here from Gus about how, I mean, that was really hurting against the Oracle opener, but it looks like it was all building up towards that early push, which, again, the stasis was insane. Like, so just, yeah, very rough follow-up there, and in the end, they were forced into the all-in. The harassment just became too much. GG. GG, well played. With that, Goblin and uThermal, they will advance on into the next round, and we are here to follow them. And here we do see them going up against a more pro team, going up against GMs, going up against semi-pros. You should be familiar with these 2 players. It's going to be uThermal and Goblin going up against Replicant and Tiger. Let's go.